Indies. Welcome to our Wednesday live session. Please let me know if you can hear me okay. Always working with these levels. So stoked to get into it with y'all today. We did have a couple of personnel changes. So it wasn't going to be me, but it is now. Lucky you. All right, so I actually need to pull up our live page because I don't have that in front of me just yet, but I will shortly. Greg Freeman is here and he can hear me, which is wonderful. So stoked to have you here, Greg. All right, let me get to that watch page. You've got this is a Q&A session. So, of course, I'm going to be hitting the questions on the pages first. All right, hopefully that's a little loud. Gain is almost all the way up, so that's the best I can do for you. Turn me up. So I'm going to start with the questions that are on the page, that are on the watch page in the Indies Live section of your Indie Pro dashboard. So there is a bunch of questions in here, which is great. And then if you have other questions, follow-up questions, or you just didn't have a chance to get them into that page before we started, you can go ahead and put them in the chat and I will get to them. So let's get started. I'm going to go ahead and share my view here because I usually try to read the questions as well as I can, but this way you can read along. So I'll zoom on in so you guys can see it a little better, and I'll move myself over here. All right, so Devin asks, Facebook page optimization question. What are the best practices for call to action buttons on Facebook pages if you're not running a compelling opt-in offer yet, thinking about the automatic buddies coming in from my fan finder? All right, so this is covered in ones and zeros a bit, but I actually want to update that training with a couple of things, right? So the call to action is really whatever it is you're doing right now. So this can be a number of things. If you're, if you're running a fan finder and you've got a surge of people coming in that might be clicking on that button, my recommendation would be to have them message you. If you're using ManyChat, obviously you can have some cool automation set up, and that is definitely a recommendation from me. But also if they message you, you can interact with them, right? So if you don't have something that you can send them to some kind of opt-in page or send them to some other kind of page on your site, that's what I would recommend. You can also send them, if on your site, you could build basically a page that is, this is the cool shit I'm doing, right? So it could be, that could include some videos, some links to your music, just different things where they can interact with you. And as you're saying with automatic buddies, right? This allows them to discover more about you. So, you can make that button learn more, So, but I would basically, do one of those two things. If you don't currently have something that they can opt in for, and you don't, you're not really sure what else to offer them, either bring them through content that would be fitting of what we call an I series, which is an introduction series, which you would put on your email list anyway, something that gets people warmed up to who you are, and either have that happening or go ahead and have them message you and you can educate them exactly the way you want to. So that's what I would do with that call to action button. All right, cool. Next question is from Emily. I'm starting an album launch from ground zero, always exciting and frightening. So I totally understand where you are, Emily. I've done it too. Would you recommend that I record the album first and then sit on it while I do the ultimate album launch, or should I start the UAL and generate some income and interest whilst I'm in the process of recording? Is it worth it to run a fan finder before I have my funnel in order? And the last question, if the nitty-gritty tech stuff like coding is overwhelming for me, are there peeps you recommend who I could hire to help me with that? Thanks in advance for your genius level recommendations. You guys are the best. Well, thank you very much, Emily. So let's tackle this one bit at a time. So one thing that is tripping me up, you're talking about, should I record the album first and then do the ultimate album launch, or do you start it while you're in the process of recording? So I'm not sure what your recording process is like, but for me, if I were to start something like that while I was recording, they would get to the end of that far before I was ready to give them an album. If you are recording at home and you have a quick turnaround, you're not waiting on anyone, obviously that would be a little different. But in theory, I think that the best thing would be to not only record the album first, but also document it while you're recording the album, because that is A1 content to put in that album launch, right? So in theory, you'd be generating, and bringing in this content while you're recording. So having a UAL for that wouldn't necessarily be as valuable as it could be if you were doing it after the fact and can put that video and that other content in there. I have seen some people do an ultimate album launch almost kind of like a crowdfunding situation where people can pre-order after they've gone through this launch, and in their launch they will put voice memos, really rough scratch kind of recordings of things that are not the final product, and even the process of like designing your album cover and having interaction with people that way. I have seen people do that kind of in a UAL format, but I think it would be challenging to keep finding things to say without putting some kind of timeline on yourself. And the last thing you want to do is rush through your recording process because you have all these people lying in wait, So something that Jack and I are going to be talking about on the upcoming episode, we basically have a hot seat episode for Creative Juice. And we talk about, basically, do you run a fan finder and wait for people? How do you prioritize your budget, etc. If I were you, I would say wait on the fan finder until you have something to offer them. So if you're not going to do a UAL right away, let's make sure you have something to catch them, to grab them, right? I also think that, depending on what your budget level is, I don't recommend running a fan finder for less than $10 a day. I know a lot of people do. They do it at $1 a day, $5 a day. Kind of depends on all the ad sets, etc. But for me, it really makes the most sense to just save up that cash, put it in your sock drawer and wait, because the best fan finders are going to run for shorter periods of time with that same volume of cash. So you're much better off running $300 over, 6 weeks than you are running $300 over a year. It just doesn't give Facebook enough oomph to find the exact right people, because $1 a day is very limiting as far as the audience that Facebook can find. So I would say save up your money. If you want to run a fan finder before that funnel is in order, you can totally do that, but you want to make sure that you have something else for them to engage with. We don't want to run a fan finder just, without some kind of follow-up prepared, because they're not just going to stick around after seeing one video. They're going to forget about you. So you want to have something that can follow up with them, after they decide that they like your music through that video view campaign. So that's what I would say there. I would say save your money, basically, unless you have something else that is not the UAL to just keep them, starting to get engaged and educated, and then move them into the UAL later. And your last question, the nitty gritty tech stuff is overwhelming. Are there peeps you recommend? Well, obviously we have, we have our IndieX services, though, usually, starting from ground zero is, not the typical client that's a good fit for IndieX. IndieX is a great source of revenue lift, and it's usually more successful for established artists. So there are things that you can kind of get into, there's Fiverr, Upwork, right? All of those kinds of services. And, or you could, there's a lot of really great people in the Indie Pro group. You could find a mentor in there, ask if there's anyone willing to work with you on it. Don't let them sell you anything, because no one's supposed to be selling anything in the Indie Pro group. But if someone's willing to help you, right? There's also Indie Founder, which is a resource for people who are trying to get their tech stuff set up. And Full Stack Merch is going to be offering tech builds very soon as well, though that's going to be more e-commerce focused and not so much, landing pages and things like that. So, but hopefully one of those resources is something that can work for you. But I would say mostly you can do it, like I know it can seem overwhelming, but if you just take it one bite at a time, take a look at the How to Run Your Music Business training in the Indie Pro dashboard. It really helps you figure out like, okay, how do I take this thing that is overwhelming and about to flatten me and, go ahead and break it into these little chunks so that I'm not overwhelmed. I'm just doing this one thing until I get it done and it's easy, and then I'll do the 50 billion things after that that happen. So, you've got a lot of resources there, free or paid, hopefully one of those works out for you. So thank you, Emily. Devin's in here twice. Sneaky, sneaky. Okay. So you want to keep the fan finder that you're running optimized, and recall the training saying that a 20% change over 48 hours is the way to go to stay optimized and not lose all your work. I was booming the other day during my ads audience testing phase. It's doing good now, but I'm concerned I made a mistake. Once I picked what I believed was the 4 top performing ad sets, I shut off the other 10. Did I ruin all that optimization and traction I gained from my headline test? Should I have extended the process of shutting off my other ad sets over multiple days? Because I went from spending like $70 to $20 in a day. Should I do anything different next time I'm testing audiences? Okay, so there's a few ways to approach this, Devin, right? Like obviously there's the training, which is a step-by-step. So, that says what it says. So I want to give you some theoretical things that you can use to critically think for yourself about how you want to do this. First, I'll tell you what I would do. First I'll address your first paragraph. 20% change over 48 hours. The reason that we say that, and I recommend you check out the ad guide, the new asset that's up in the training area, because and specifically in that, what the auction means, right? And we all kind of know what that is, I think. But essentially, when you put a certain budget on, an ad set or on a campaign, you're bidding for certain people, right? Let's say, just to round down and up, let's say your least expensive person falls in a, $1 CPM, right? Which is a cost per 1,000 impressions. So let's say that person is, 1/1000th of a dollar, right? So what would that be? 100th of a cent? You know what I'm saying? And so let's say like the most expensive, like the perfect person for your fan finder is in a $50 CPM, right? So depending on how much you're spending per day, not only is Facebook going to optimize, to get you the best results, but what they're doing is they're finding, okay, between the $1 guy and the $50 guy or gal, then it's finding like, okay, where can I get the CPM or the people that are going to allow me to still give this ad reasonable results, right? So, because if it gave it all to your very best people at $50 CPM and you're earning $20 a day, it can't do that. If you're at the $20 mark, people who would fall into that category, right? Then if you're spending $20 a day, you might get only 1,000 people on that ad. So Facebook is going to not want to feed it to those people because you're not going to get as many results. So it's going to try to find a middle ground. So that's why when you change your budget, you're not just changing the amount you're spending, you're actually changing the segment of people that you're allowing Facebook to target. And that's why scaling is really more where this applies, this 20% change. Because if you change it by 20%, then it gives the machine a way to move without changing 100% of your people. It's like, oh, okay, the budget's up, so I can go ahead and keep this middle segment there, but I'm going to remove this bottom 10% and heighten this 10%. Does that make sense? So I highly recommend going into the training guide, taking a look at how the auction works. But really, your budget doesn't impact just your results. It also impacts the type of people and the value of the people that you're reaching. Now, does that mean that we should just put $1,000 a day on everything because it'll get us the most valuable people? Of course not. There's a point where you can't pay more to, reach better people, so to speak, right? It all depends on how competitive the market is for your ad. So that is a very summated version, right? I'm just trying to get enough information in here for you to understand kind of what I'm talking about, but you definitely want to go in the ad guide. Circa does some incredible descriptions of the auction, how that works, and that will explain kind of why that 20% rule exists. Now, that said, it's not a hard rule. It's not a hard and fast rule. And when you're talking about turning off all of these other ad sets, you're good to go, right? I wouldn't stress too much about it. I definitely have shut off ad sets as long as you're not turning them off and on and your budget is at the ad set level, which is, it sounds like it is, then nothing's changed as far as that ad set's learning is concerned. Now, if you were doing campaign level optimization, CBO, you didn't have ad set budgets, but you had one campaign budget and you turned, 10, you turned off 10 of 14 ad sets, that would be jarring because then the algorithm has to be like, okay, I have to spend the same amount of money, but I have way less data, right? To do that in these. And so it would kick it back into a learning phase where it's figuring out, okay, who are the people with this budget with this, right? So the ad sets are not impacted if you have ad set level budgeting, which it sounds like you do. So yeah, don't stress about that. Now, what I would do if I do a headline test or if I'm doing some kind of creative test, I put those all into different ad sets within a campaign or different ads, whatever it is, and I let that filter out, and then I actually will turn off that campaign, duplicate it, and start afresh with only the ad sets that I want to run to. And I use campaign level optimization at that point. And the reason why is because I figured out what I think are the top 4, but now I want Facebook to prioritize whatever it thinks is the best of those 4. So that's what I would do. And I know you're probably thinking like, oh, but then there's, the learning phase and whatever. The thing is, if you're, running a reasonable amount of budget, $20 a day, if you can maintain that, Facebook will learn it fast enough. You'll be in the learning phase for a couple of days and then it'll settle its ground. So that's how I would do that. Hope that's helpful. I know it was a lot. So I see you in the comments, guys. I got one more question and I got 2 more questions and I will be right on over there. All right. We got Matt. What's up, Matt? I recently set up my first e-store and I'm running a sale for a few weeks at this link. I was wondering if you have any recommendations of on-demand printing for merch. Right now, I am using a combination of custom ink, threadless, and I am also hosting certain items exclusively on my e-store, i.e. a USB flash drive. I'm also wondering if there's a training session in the Indepreneur Vault that covers the methods to market merch to existing fans, or if you have any personal strategies for this. All right, Matt. First, I want to look at your store. You know my heart because you're bringing merch things to the table here. So I'm gonna dig in. I love this stuff. Okay. So here's your store. Cool. Is this Wix? Let me see. I'm nosy. I always forget the quick key for viewing the source. I'm digging your stuff. Okay, it's Squarespace. Got it. And you got some plugins you got running here. Okay, cool. All right. So, and the reason I'm investigating that is because I want to make sure that I'm, referring you to something that works with what you're using, right? So yeah, this does look like a Squarespace store. Definitely. This pop-up is interesting. It looks like it's pushing down all the content on your page. Just an FYI. That's a lot of black space at the top. Anyway. All right. So I see you've got some shirts here. This is cool. Dude, we could make this at Full Stack Merch for so cheap. I don't know what you're paying, but I would love to make that for you. We love little wood things around here. Okay, cool. So stickers, button, face mask, chapstick. Love that. Okay, which makes sense, right? You've got this sun thing, so I get it. You know, it's not random. All right, cool. All right, so now that I've taken a look, let me go back to your question. For on-demand printing for merch, my favorite is Printful, and that's printful.com. It integrates with Shopify, but it also integrates with a lot of other providers. And I am 90% sure that it also integrates with Squarespace. Although if it doesn't, it's because Squarespace does not integrate. Their e-com is not great as far as talking to other providers. It's great within itself, but beyond that, it's a little bit limited. So it's difficult to send things out from there, Zapier or anything else like that. So that's sad. Without like totally overhauling your store, there are a couple options. I mean, Printful is wonderful, works well. It works with a lot of different providers. So if any of you are also, if you're on Wix or Shopify or WooCommerce, or, you know, there's a myriad of providers that Printful integrates with. They have a very robust API for that. So I highly recommend Printful. They also have, you know, everything in on-demand is delayed right now. So nothing's going to be perfect, you know, and Printful is out of certain things. I know, yeah, but it's because providers are out of things. Like right now, if you try to go find like Gildan 50/50 blend hoodies in black in size 3X, you're probably not going to find them. Not on blanks, not on, you know, like on-demand printing, and not in like screen print runs, right? Gildan is running low on black 3X 50/50 hoodies, you know? So there are going to be things like that with print on demand, and then, you know, your order will be delayed, and that's always a drag for you and for the customer, right? But that could be happening no matter what. So Printful is the best I've experienced with customer service, with the range of integrations that they offer. They can sync up to a lot of different providers, and their shipping and tracking information usually syncs very well with most providers. And the quality of their print of the on-demand printers I've worked with is probably the best. So that's my 2 cents on that. Now, as far as, let's see, is there a training session in the vault? So there currently is not a training session specifically on merch, though, you know me, I'm gunning for it in 2021. That's something that I actually want to be doing once Full Stack Merch kind of settles out. But we also have Indie Founder Merch Success, which is going to be launching in 2021 as well. So that'll be like an Indie Founder session that is specifically about merchandise. And that will also cover, you know, not just creating merchandise and finding vendors and figuring out how your tech stack works with the merch, but also how do I market it? How do I make sure my catalog is feeding to Facebook? How do I run these retargeting ads? How do I, you know, all of the things that come with that. So that could be another resource for you as well. Otherwise, there's a lot of people, and again, I keep saying it, in the Indie Pro group who have a lot of experience with merch. So, you know, if you have a question, post it in there. Also, the staff is in there. We all have a day a week that we go in there and make sure that we're, you know, answering any questions that are still lingering, that maybe someone didn't get the right answer to their question. And that is Monday through Friday. There's one staff person in there every single day, and Gracie's in there every day. So if you have a question, that would be where I would recommend looking. So hopefully one of those works for you. I really do like your USB sticks a lot. So I would love to make those. It's so fun. We have done that, more tests with wood, with Full Stack Merch. We like made these little like decal things, right? And it's unfinished wood, so it still needs to be refinished, but you can see like the grain comes in where it was burnt out. And we love playing with wood things at Full Stack Merch and with our laser. So yeah, definitely. Cool. All right. Let's get to Greg's question. He's been here since the very first second we went live, and I've been just waiting for his question. I'm so excited. All right, Greg. You just released a live CD DVD project. You're selling it for $30. You have it on your Shopify. Did you overprice it? You've sold 5 of them. You don't want to punish people who already bought by lowering the price. They do cost only $4 to make, not counting the cost of hiring the band members or the video editor, of course. So, and then you've got some more. So I'm going to touch on that first. We say this a lot, entrepreneur, like it is worth what you say it is, right? So, but if you feel that a lot of people have looked at it and have not purchased and you feel it could be because the price point's too high, you don't have to lower it in your store to offer those people something, right? So depending on your mailing list provider, hopefully you've been tagging the people who did purchase. Since there's only 5, you could also manually tag them as of right now. And then sell, do a holiday sale or do it's my cat's birthday sale. Like you can pick any day of any month to do a sale, right? And just send it to people who did not buy it and say, hey, I'm doing a flash sale for the next 24 hours or whatever you want to do it. And I'm offering it for this lower price. Most people who buy things from me, even though it's stuff in my store, very rarely are people paying full price unless it's a brand new item. I send so many discounts and deals to my mailing list, and it's heavily segmented by the products that they've already purchased, that everybody's getting some kind of unique deal for something that they didn't buy. So, it's very rare that I actually sell something at the sticker price because I'm, emailing them deals so much. And the thing is, they buy other things at sticker price while they're there, right? But the primary thing that they went there to get, they have a discount code for it or whatever. So that's what I would recommend doing with that. It also makes you look super gracious, right? Instead of being like, oh, I should lower the price. It's more like, hey, I'm awesome and I'm gonna hook you up. Right? So that's the move I would recommend making in that situation. I don't think $30 is out of the box anyway, right? So, all right, let's move on to your next one. How do I maximize selling this or moving this? It's my first release in 5 years. Should I already be moving on to the next thing? Because of the circumstances of how this project came out, I didn't do a traditional UAL thing. This was going to be a free plus shipping handling thing until I ended up making this a DVD and CD instead of just a CD. Got it. The product is on Shopify, but you have a WordPress site, free MailChimp account. You've had the same fan finder running at $1 a day on both Facebook and IG since June. I know you already know what I think about the $1 a day thing, but also you haven't been as active, right? If this is the first thing you've released in 5 years, then, maybe just keeping those people warm and bringing people in slowly is something that works for you. Now, as far as your, should you be moving on to the next thing, I always think of I set up something and it never stops, right? If you're doing your automation well, which hopefully you are, then, sorry, someone's being really loud in my office. Give me 1 second. Okay. I was just screaming at someone, but I muted it so you didn't hear it. Okay, so so I always I try to automate things enough so that when I set it up, it can keep running, right? And I still check in on it periodically, but it never stops, right? My guild experience is still running, right? That was a UAL-ish thing, but it wasn't a traditional UAL either. But now it's content that people can keep coming in and keep consuming and keep using. I run ads that have been running and they're doing what they're supposed to do, right? Video view campaigns and greenlight warmth boosting, and those just run. And I have automated rules in my ads manager to shut them off when it hits certain parameters, right? Where people have seen it a certain number of times or whatever. But basically, like when I set something up, I set it up so that it can last and so that people who are automatic buddies can still start back at the beginning and work their way up to the present. So I wouldn't think about, trying to forget about moving this. I would instead think of it as, okay, I've got a MailChimp account. I know there's a certain number of people who haven't purchased this. Maybe I put it in my super signature, right? Which is that section under, see you later, Greg, right? And under that is like, P.S., here's some cool things for you. So you could put it in there, right? You could have basically, if you wanted to create some content that wasn't like a UAL, but it was something about it, right? You could run that as kind of a campaign to your mailing list and be like, hey, I'm doing this cool thing. I want to show you some behind the scenes of this. And that'll make their ownership in it a little higher. So there's still ways that you can make it more evergreen, so to speak. But that said, it's always moving forward, but not moving on, right? So you should still be looking at what you're going to be doing next, but that doesn't mean you abandon the thing you just did. Does that make sense? That's kind of how I look at it. So I hope that's helpful. Yes. All right. So I know there's like a zillion comments. I've been seeing them pop up. So I'm going to dig on into those. We've got Facebook and YouTube running. So I'm going to get in here. Okay. So on YouTube, Beat Tweaks ask, I understand starting out with the fan finder, but what happens after that? Let's say my goals are to grow my Spotify and Instagram. What would the path be after the fan finder? Okay. So if you're running a fan finder, I highly recommend also having it run on Instagram. That can generate some followers there, just, by sheer exposure, right? Spotify ads, there's a ground report in the Indie Pro section. If you go to ground report, there's a ground report with Ed, who worked, basically he was talking about Spotify ads, right? And Spotify ads do very well on IG stories. So I would recommend checking that out because that kind of serves both of your purposes. You can do it to cold traffic. You can do it to people who have already engaged. If you have a fan finder that's running on Instagram, if you have a fan finder running on Facebook, if they also have an Instagram account, they'll see it too, right? Because it's the same. It's the same system. So yeah, that would be, after the fan finder, I would say you could run, if you care about Spotify, you could run some ads on Instagram going to Spotify. But I'd also say, make sure that there's somewhere they can go. I don't know if you have a website or if you have something that you own, right? Your mailing list, your text list, your website, where you can get them a little bit more engaged, because Spotify and Instagram are such light touches, right? But yeah, I would say, if you care about Spotify and you love Instagram, IG story ads to Spotify are definitely the way to go. So that's hopefully helpful for you. Greg says, you're answering one of my questions. If I turn my lookalike audiences off for the fan finder, can I just turn them back on when I have the money, or do I need to go back to interest targeting for $10 a month, $10 a day? Got it. Is that $10 a day on Facebook and $10 a day for IG, or is that all inclusive? Yeah. So basically $10 a day for an audience of, a few million with all placements, as long as your CPM isn't super high, which again, it varies per artist, but as long as yours isn't crazy high, that should do you fine. That said, I do think that just running fan finders for an extended period of time is not necessarily as beneficial as, again, stopping it and saving it up for when you have something for them to do after they discover that fan finder, right? Lookalikes should be great, unless you see, your results changing a lot, like your costs going up or your frequency going up a lot, right? And when I say a lot, I mean like more than, anywhere from 2 to 5 is still acceptable. But for a fan finder cold traffic, I usually would put it at 2 of a frequency. But otherwise, your lookalike is fine, And if you shut off your lookalike and turn it back on 3 months from now, there's a whole other, bundle of people that are going to qualify for that and have a different activity level and are going to make more sense for that lookalike. So yeah, I would say go ahead and, You know, if you want to turn off that fan finder because you want to build up something for them to fall into after they discover you via that video, save up that money, and then you can spend more on it for that short period of time when you're more focused on the ad, can engage with them in the comments more, and have somewhere to send them to get more information and do that permission phase kind of stuff. So that's my thoughts. Okay, Scott says, thanks so much for all of this. I have a question. We just recorded our first fully produced album and are very excited about it. We have a live album released from 3 years ago and another live EP. We have a fairly small but steady amount of streams coming in on those. They contain several of the songs on this new record, and they're way below our current standard. It's time to renew our distribution for the older one, and we're considering letting it expire. We'll lose some streams and potentially some monthly listeners, but it might help us build excitement for the upcoming record and will be a more accurate representation of who we are now. Any suggestions? Yeah, I mean, you might be asking the wrong person because I don't care about Spotify and I don't care the number of streams I have on anything. It does not matter to me at all. If you go to my I have less than 1,000 monthly listeners. I consistently have double the monthly customers that I have monthly listeners. And so to me, it doesn't matter. And I would say take them down, put up the new ones, no harm, no foul. But I'm biased, right? So I think the thing for you to consider is, you know, who are you sending to your Spotify? How aggressively are you promoting that profile? Is there a reason to believe that your stream numbers are going to impact anything, right? If you are one of those people that are chasing down management, chasing down, a booking agent, or chasing down, one of those kind of services, and one of those teammates, maybe that matters, right? I, personally am, again, not in the boat where I care about that stuff. But, when you're talking about booking agents, promoters, managers, labels, they all look at Spotify and they care about what that says, which is why so many people pay for bogus streams and all of that. Hopefully they'll stop looking at it the way that they do currently, because you can just buy it and it's all fake now anyway and whatever, but that is kind of a reality if you are looking for that kind of stuff. Local booking promoters are usually a little bit better about that. But those are the challenges they're in. So if it were me, I would say I'm glad it's there. But if these songs are re-recorded, right, which is what it sounds like it is, those are different audio, so they don't qualify for the same ISRC code. If they were the same recordings, you could issue it under another album and maintain your streams based on that ISRC code. But if it's a new recording, it doesn't qualify for that. So, but hey, if Taylor Swift can do it, anybody can, right? So I hope that's helpful. All right. So Matt says Squarespace. Let's see. Mindflip says I paid for live consultation. Is that what it is? It won't let me log in on the website or add a comment. Okay. Yeah. So it looks like Gracie's got you covered there. Sorry. All right. So thank you, Gracie, for your help. Okay. So Devin's in here again. You guys can make those wooden flip drives. I'm here for that. I always have to order a batch of flash drives off Amazon and load them myself to send my mixtapes out. How do you do business with us? Okay. So you can go to indiepreneur.io/full-stack-merch, or you can go to indiepreneur.io/services, and full stack merch is there. But yes, we are, we love making little things for indies and not charging them an arm and a leg, and doing some of that cool engraving and customization. We practice what we preach. Don't send out boring merch, so we'll help you not make boring merch. So we'd love to have you. Okay, so Emma has posted a landing page, which we have time for, so I'm going to go ahead and check that out. And I'm going to share my screen so that everybody can learn together, including me. All right. Okay. So I already like this color scheme. It's so warm and cute. All right. So the blinded experience. Come on in. What am I signing up for? Okay. I'm going to read this to myself so you guys don't have to hear me mutter under my breath while I read. Cool. I like this. I'm interested where this is built. No pixels. I know it's in progress still. Make sure you got your pixels in there. That's what I want to see. Yeah, this looks really cute. I love, you know, you've got, let me check this out. Look at that cute picture, you. Oh, is this a type form? Nice. I love that. It's also cool because you use the photo that's on the site and it's, you know, it doesn't match, but it's almost cool that it doesn't match. It's almost like, bang, you know, like it gives it a 3-dimensional kind of like shadow box look. I really dig that. And I love typeform forms. I'm addicted to typeform. They're just so great. So, all right, cool. Yeah, I love this font. I think that that's really cute. I'm assuming that's, you know, very on brand. I would only say like this font and this font, right? We probably want to stick to 2 fonts, right? Because, and the reason why we say that is because people, the whole point of a font is to communicate a brand, right? But then under that, we kind of subliminally look at like, oh, what things match, right? And where are things grouped together? So I feel like by having this different, right, it's confusing because we already have something different here and then this is different. So I would say, you know, pick one of these fonts to be in here. This is very legible, right, which is important, especially when you start. So we might want to check out mobile formatting on that. Which, let me be nosy. What are you on? Is this a WordPress site? This is either WordPress or Hair Storage or Wix, maybe. Tell me what it is, Emma. Okay, and it looks, Gracie said there's 4 more comments on the watch page if I refresh. All right, I'll get back to that. Anyway, so you said it's Wix. Okay, gotcha. So, yeah, Wix, actually, as much as I don't like Wix for so many things, their mobile editor might be the best of a lot of the what you see is what you get builders. And Wix drop and drag is better because you can place stuff anywhere. They don't make you work in blocks. I just wish the rest of their stuff didn't suck so bad. Anyway, but yeah, so outside of the font, I think the color scheme is really cute. I love that you've got this like very slight transparency to allow that photo to come through, especially like, ooh, her eyeballs. Like, I think that it's cool to like have the artist kind of looking at you while you're reading through this stuff. And then obviously you've got these buttons, you know, like I love the hover effect on that. Yeah, that's cute. I think that this looks really good. I love the type form. I love how the photo populates in there with that embedded form. I think, yeah, I really love this font a lot. I really like that font. It wouldn't work for my brand, but I think it's beautiful. I'm not going to steal it, I promise. It's cute though. So yeah, that looks great, Emma. I would just say, you know, figure out that mobile responsiveness. Wix again has a really good mobile editor, and you know the type form looks pretty. So I'd say you're good to go. Very cute. Love it. I also, like I said, I really love the color scheme a lot. So, all right, let's get back to this watch page and refresh, because Gracie says there are some things. Every time I see that selfie of myself with the pink hair at the beginning, I'm sad because I haven't gone out and got my hair done since the pandemic, and I miss it. Okay, so we have Fuad says, I understand starting out with a fan finder, but what happens after that? Okay, I'm pretty sure you also posted this in YouTube, yes? Just making sure. If I'm wrong, let me know. All right, so we've got Emily here. She says, that makes sense. I wasn't sure whether the UAL was intended to finance the recording. Sounds like more of a recoup your investment strategy. Thank you so much. Exactly what I was looking for. Absolutely, Emily. And, you know, one thing that I'm doing, my membership site is launched, and what I'm doing with them is that the higher tiers of my members are getting, you know, behind the scenes content. And like this weekend, they're going to get a voice demo, literally me in a room playing piano through a bass amp recorded on my phone. But it's one of the songs from the new album. And they are so freaking excited about it. It's not even funny. And these are the people who pay $20 a month or more. And that's, you know, that's kind of the barrier for that. So not saying that you need to go build a membership site. Trust me. It's not quick and easy if you do it right. But that is a way that you can kind of crowdfund, right? There's also, depending on where your store is built, you know, because I don't love like Kickstarter and stuff like that, because they take a pretty big chunk, honestly, and you can't track it properly. And, you know, it's just, it's not great. But if you have a Shopify store, there's a really cool app called Crowdfunder that essentially does the same thing. If you're on WooCommerce, there's a few tools where you can essentially build the same thing, right? So there's a whole bunch of options out there to do kind of some crowdfunding with your own site. And one way to really make that enticing is to have that preview content. So, and yeah, the UAL is more like, okay, the album is launching, you know, this is how I'm going to move these copies, especially for anyone who didn't, like, you know, if you did crowdfunding, anyone who didn't help fund it, right? So do it. You're doing great. I love how you're thinking. All right, Simon, when do I start collecting email? Right now. I now have about 12 followers on Facebook from FanFinder. I generate 70,000 streams weekly on Spotify. I have a feeling you're saying 12,000 followers on Facebook, not 12. I'm guessing, but because 70 streams with 12 followers would be bonkers. Anyway, you're generating 70 streams weekly on Spotify, which is awesome. I feel like it's a waste of money and time to collect 100 emails. It's not like selling 20 t-shirts. Will that make a difference? Is it too early? Okay. So one thing to consider is that email is not, I know we talk about email like a source of revenue all the time, right? You're not going to make any money. You should be making $1 for every email list member and blah, 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 right? But email is really more so that you can keep following up with them, and it's not at the mercy of the machine learning of Facebook or an IG, right? Like, you can show people the things whenever you want. And that is really the most valuable thing about email. Can you make sales? Abso-freaking-lutely. Can you also, you know, send them early tracks? Can you have them vote on merch before you even make merch? You know, all of these things are a huge benefit to having that direct contact. It also lets you gauge, you know, what people are interested in, what fans are, you know, the most communicative and the most likely to support you later, and, you know, all of these things, right? Email just gives you a ton of insight. So don't just think about email as, you know, time to make sales. It's also a way to nurture that relationship so that, you know, Facebook doesn't decide that for you. Instagram doesn't decide that for you. You know, you can have that relationship. And if you only have 20 people on your mailing list, great. Treat those 20 people like they're going to be with you 10 years from now when you're still doing this, you know, and you're going to know their names, and they know that you're going to know their names, you know, because they've been in contact with you so early on. It's just a very different mental space than socials, right? You can do it on socials, but it's not the same, right? So that's my 2 cents. I don't think it's ever too early to start collecting email. I do think that it's, it could be good to start with a free provider so that it's not costing you money right out the gate. And if you have a small list, we talk all the time about what mailing list providers are good and what aren't, and, all of these different things. Like I recently, said that I'm not a fan of MailChimp anymore. They were my go-to for 10 years. And, recent developments make me want to go to Drip. However, Drip doesn't have a free plan, right? So it's imperfect, but MailChimp is fine, for your first couple hundred people, right? If you're not doing a ton of sales and you're not doing a ton of commerce, MailChimp is great. There's a free version. Do that, So that's my 2 cents about that. Get email in as soon as you can. Just don't let it break the bank until you're ready to actually monetize it. So, perfect. Okay. So Michael's here. He made a satirical music video, which I love. Facebook will not let you run an ad for it because of their current blackout on ads for any content they consider social issue or election related. They started this blackout just before the election and say they will announce whether they would continue it around December 11th. It's unfortunate timing because the video got a good response on YouTube, but I recognize there's limited follow-up opportunity with the YouTube path. I was able to do one ad in Facebook for a day, but when I tried to continue it, they rejected it due to the ban. So the question, which I am guessing no one has an answer to, is whether you have any sense on whether they will be ending the ban soon. Also, whether you folks have run into this on any other music video content in the past few weeks and have any luck with the appeals process. Any recommendation for how to get a review by a higher up / real human to converse with about it rather than the usual limited appeals and rejection process? No. I'm just kidding. I mean, kind of. I'm kind of kidding. Yes. So this is definitely, it's something that is very frustrating about advertising in general, right? Your content is, somewhat censored. And that's at the liberty of the platform. I do think it's funny the things that they say they will not censor, and then musicians can't put up ads for music. But anyway, I'm not going to get into that right now. So I don't know anything about this ban. So, I mean, I know it exists and I know it's there. I'm saying I'm not privy to any of those decisions. If I had to guess, I would guess that as long as this whole election discussion is contested and all of the things that come with that, it may be continued. I wouldn't be surprised at all. So, as far as reaching a human, I will tell you that it is tough. And even Jack, who's on, I don't even know how many ad accounts and business managers Jack is on, our IndieX team lead. And even he has been he got put in Facebook jail and he had a ton of really tough times trying to get his access back, and he couldn't access anything. He couldn't access anyone's ad accounts, any business, nothing. And he can't get a human, and by the time he does get one, they're like, well, you're just gonna have to wait. So it's maybe not helpful. Let me know if you're here in the comments if you feel like this music video is not actually a social issue or election related. I'm assuming that you have tried to appeal already and perhaps had a rejection of that appeal. But if you think it's actually not a social issue or election related, I would say just keep going back and saying like, no, hey, this isn't. Just be very nice. It's the only way to get through Facebook appeals. So, all right, we are running out of time, but I'm going to renew this page. Oh no, it's doing that thing. It's doing that thing where the comments won't pop up. I hate when this happens. There we go. Okay, Michael said it's definitely election related, but it's all in good fun. Yeah, I totally get it. That's, yep. Yeah, unfortunately, you're going to have to wait until it's sprinkled out, And it's interesting that I think that there's a ban on it because of, the fake news business, right? From either side. I'm not speaking for any particular side of things. But obviously there's, the fake news concern. There's been a lot of pressure from Congress and the public lately for Facebook to be, more restrictive and not let people say things that aren't true or put advertising behind things that aren't true. So, I think you're probably going to have to wait it out. I think they're also trying to keep people from capitalizing on the fact that it's an election thing, which is funny because it is a great marketing opportunity for someone that's not involved in anything election at all. It's still a topic, right, that we're all thinking about. But I think that's another reason why there's a restriction, is that they don't want anyone taking advantage of a good thing. You know what I mean? Because then you could really polarize people and bring a lot of people into your side, whatever it is. But yeah, I think that's part of the limitation that Facebook puts there. All right. I'm going to check back in on these comments, but I think we are about ready to wrap it up. Greg says, I'm going to turn the fan finder off and put a link to the DVD in my super signature. Should I mini chat it? Heck yeah. Another thing that could be cool for you to run, Greg, is, they cost you $4, but you still, if you could do a pay what you want to your warm traffic, you could probably make the money back that it cost you and have some upsells in the process, right? I know someone else who has done the same thing, who actually had a CD with a DVD and they went together. But he also got runs of just CDs. And so he put up a free plus shipping and handling with just the CDs as like the lead product. And then there was an upsell. Do you want this dual version with the DVD instead? And so he was able to make that CD free, right? Which cost him very little. But then when it had this bigger dollar amount, it was an upsell after they already said, yeah, I'll take the CD, So that might be something to look into. I know that you can, from Atomic Disc, especially with the Indie Pro deal that's in the Indie Deals section, I think you can get 100 for like $100 after shipping or whatever, 100 wallets, right? And you can just do it that way. So, that's my 2 cents. All right. I know I say that a lot. That's my 2 cents. That and so. That's how I close statements, apparently. Cool. Well, it looks like I have done everything I can for everyone today, but thanks so much for hanging out. There were some really great questions in here. I love Q&A so much, and I got a little bit of taste of my audit. So thanks for that, Emma. All right, so I'm going to get out of here, but I hope you all have a wonderful rest of the week. Get those things shipped. If you have any questions, obviously the Indie Pro Group is here for you, and we'll see you on the next one. All right. Bye, guys.